Should have done this before I started recording. What is up, guys? I'm kneeshuuh and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a palette comparison between the Colourpop Cosmetics Making Mauve palette and the Colourpop Cosmetics Menage Muah palette. So if that's something that you're interested in, keep on watching. Okay, so before I get into like my little read of my like comparison swatches, I'm just gonna kind of show you what these two look like. Just like this. So this is very reflective, so it's kind of hard to show everything without there being a glare. So these are very, very similar. You can definitely take shades from one and put them to the other. And that's exactly what I've done for you now. So here's what they look like. So going into the comparison swatches, I compared Crave to R&R. Crave looks white, like in the pan, but oxidizes to a soft pink. And I have to say that R&R looks a little bit softer too, but definitely not as white as Crave looks. The next one I did was Thrillist and Bicoastal. Bicoastal is more pink, but Thrillist is like a pink, but with much more of a reflect, so it looks brighter, if that makes sense. But otherwise, they're pretty much the same thing. Thrillist is just definitely more intense than Bicoastal. I kind of had to dumb down, for lack of better words, Thrillist with a little bit of After Midnight, because it was just so stark and bright. Next, I did Total Flirt and Solitaire. They're the same. They are simply the same. Next, I did After Midnight and Tongue Tied. After Midnight is more purple and it has a pressed glitter. I think Tongue Tied also has a pressed glitter in it. I couldn't tell until I swatched it, but you can look in the pan of After Midnight and definitely see that pressed glitter. There's more pressed glitter. There's kind of like a variation of colors where it's like a little bit of purple, a little bit of gold, a little bit of silver. And I think in Tongue Tied, it might just be silver or maybe just a light purple and silver. But they both are mattes with pressed glitter, but Tongue Tied is definitely the more reserved when it comes to the pressed glitter, if that makes sense. All right, next I did Novel and Big Fig. Big Fig is more mauve while Novel is more neutral, if that makes sense. Like Novel looks like it almost is a little bit more brown, I guess, where Big Fig is definitely more cooler, a little bit more, I don't want to say more purple, but definitely more of a cool tone shade. Next, I did Miss You and A La Mode. Miss You is definitely more purple and it's more of like a true shimmer, if that makes sense. Like it's smooth, it's creamy, it evenly distributes on the eye. I would have to say that A La Mode is more of like a topper. It's more lilac and violet. I have it here to kind of marry the bright shade to like the couple of mattes that I used, and you can kind of see it. It's just very light. It's like a topper for like, it's like an iridescent almost kind of purple topper. So there's that. And it's definitely more crumbly. It's not, what am I thinking? A flaky shade? What does the Good as Gold palette have? They have the, I can't remember. They're just the flaky shades. They're not flakies though. They're, think Huda Beauty, like the textured neutrals, those kind of shimmers where it would much, what are they called? Why are words foiled? Wow. It's almost like a foiled shade, but also not, where it's just super hard to get up off the pan and then kind of put on the eye in like a shimmer way. So yeah. Next is No Drama and Marquee. No Drama is more purple and pigmented. When in the swatches, they look like exactly the same, but on the eye, you can see that this is more purple and this is more cool toned, and this is definitely a very patchy shade. I would be stressed. I don't think it would be a stretch to say. I don't think it would be a stretch to say that Making Mauves isn't a patchy palette. Or is it patchy palette? Is it a patchy palette? Making Mauves is a patchy palette. Full stop. And I don't think that I'm a bad person for saying that. And you can definitely see it in the more darker tones. Next, I put Crave and Big Mauves. Big Mauves and Crave are so similar, but Crave is a little bit paler and I do think that Crave is a much better match for R&R. Next, I did Confess and Mauve on Top. Mauve on Top is a shimmer and Confess is a glitter, but they are essentially the same shade, but Confess is a glitter. But Confess is a glitter, but they are essentially the same shade. If you do like a glitter, if you don't like a glitter, they're the same shade. And then just to kind of finish out, since I had 10 spaces, I also compared Big T's to Mauve on Top. I just wanted to compare, but Big T's is kind of like a silver with like some purple and other color glitters like pressed into it, where Mauve on Top is just like a mauve, and Confess is also just a mauve. Big T's, it's kind of, I guess, not even silver, it's more like a champagne. It just is kind of like a very light toned glitter, but it does have purple and other shades pressed into it. Menage a Moi has 2 glitters and 2 mattes with glitter pressed into them. Making Mauves has no glitters, but it does have 1 matte with glitter, and that is, as previously mentioned, Tongue Tied. But I couldn't tell that while looking at the palette like as is, and I almost couldn't tell while swatching it. Whenever I swatched it, I was like, man, some of the shimmer got into the shade, but whenever I was done swatching and I looked at the pan, I was like, oh, there is glitter in here, not just on top of the shade, you know? Menage a Moi has 3 true shimmers, kind of like Making Mauve, but the shimmers are more buttery, whereas the shimmers in in Making Mauve are definitely more like I said, like toppers, you know? The only outlier shade in like either palette would be Amour. That is like, it's just the very pale pink shimmer that I couldn't really match to anything. But if you take that out, these are essentially like kind of the same looking palettes. So that would be the more outlier, but other than that, they're really similar. Menage a Moi is more purple, but it's still very vibrant, and it is a more like warmer toned purple or warmer toned mauves, if such a thing can like exist. Maybe just neutral mauves, where Making Mauves is more cool toned mauves. That makes sense. Maybe. Anyway. Menage a Moi does the darker mattes better, like in a better formula, less fallout, more pigments, all that good stuff. But the lighter shades feel about the same as the Making Mauves formula. Making Mauve shimmers are very flaky, and the mattes in Making Mauve are so similar. Solitaire, Big Fig, and Tongue Tied all swatched basically the same color, just kind of like a very mid-toned mauve, like crease shade. Tongue Tied is that matte with pressed glitter, and the other 2 are just kind of mattes. So there we go. Making Mauves is also very powdery, and so if you hate fallout, I would say don't buy that one. Even the shimmers have fallout. Like, there is a lot of fallout in the pan. Not a lot was on my face. Like, there was a fair amount of fallout from both on my face, but in the pan, Making Mauve is like horrible. If you don't like fallout, do not buy Making Mauve. So Making Mauves has 1 matte with pressed glitter. So if you don't like matte with pressed glitter, you have 8 shades that you can still use, should you be of the mindset that you're just going to scrape out whatever you're not going to use anyway. Making Mauves has 2 mattes with pressed glitter and 2 glitters. So they both have pretty much the same amount of shades that you would use if you don't use those types of texture. I was gonna say if you don't use those shades. If you don't use those types of textures, both palettes have 8 shades that you would theoretically use. But if you like better shimmers, I would say go for the Making Mauves. There would be only 2 shimmers that you would use, that being Thriller and Miss You, but they're very buttery, very creamy, very standout shimmers. Oh, and Amour, but Amour is definitely more like, Amour isn't as like vibrant, it's just kind of, it would be a nice inner corner highlight. It's a much more soft shade, but it isn't as soft as like the Making Mauves palette, how those shades are very flaky and very like you have to really work to get them to show up on your eye. You know, you almost have to use a finger, it feels like. And even then, whenever I did use a finger and swatched it, it looked like more was on my finger than what actually swatched. So I would have to say that my favorite is the Making Mauves. But if you don't like, I don't know, I don't want to say like standout shimmers, but if you don't like shimmers, or if you don't even care if shimmers are very like bam pigmented or not, I would say go for the Making Mauves. It's a little bit less expensive, but there's less, I don't know, throwaway shades for you to use should you not like, you know, as previously stated. I don't know why I keep going back and forth like this, but overall for shade and like shadow quality, I would say the Making Mauves is my favorite. It also has a mirror. I'm very biased because I do YouTube, where I like having a mirror. I like being able to get up, get in there, and like really get in there. So that is my opinion on everything. So if you've stuck around for all this, thank you everybody so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and stick around to see this wonderful eye look I made. Bye. My eyebrows are dark. Ugh. Hello, I'm back and my hair isn't done again. So, all right, so palette comparison. I'm trying to think of another title other than just palette comparison, you know? I used to call this like, do you need it? But should I go back to that? I kind of want to make it like dupe something with a D. You know, I need to look up synonyms of compare or comparison that begin with D. Do you want in? Are you kidding me? My girl cat is so particular. She doesn't like closed doors. She likes the ability to come in and out as she pleases, and she's still on the floor. And she's just very needy. Anyway, so yeah, I've been thinking about like renaming this. I might go back to like, do you need it? But I don't know. I got a really dumb idea where I could call this dupe and make it an X. I just let you in. Anyway, I just had a dumb idea that I could like make the acronym dupe and be like, do you, and then something that begins in PE. That doesn't sound dumb. I don't know. I'm everywhere today. So I'm going to be doing a palette comparison between the Colourpop Menage Muah and the Colourpop Making Mauves palette. But you already know that because you've seen my intro, and sadly I don't film my intro or I do the makeup, so I talk. Anyway, so I mentioned earlier about my hair not being done, and I mentioned in my last video about my hair not being done, and I guess I just want to clarify something. It's that I'm not doing my hair always. It's more like if I have an opportunity that arises for me to not do my hair, I don't want to not take the opportunity to film because my hair isn't done, if that makes sense. Because I don't like using heat on my hair, and whenever I use the curl things, they take like 5 hours to dry. And if I am just like, oh, I have some time to film, but oh, not enough time to do my hair and film, 9 times out of 10, I just wouldn't film. But right now, for instance, I have a wonderful opportunity to film, and I'm taking it whether my hair is done or not. So at the times where I like normally film and I like schedule myself to film, I will do my hair probably. So that is tongue-tied. It's just really sloppily all over the place because that's just how I do my halo eyes. Now in my comparison swatches, tongue-tied, marquee, and solitaire all pretty much were like the same shade, just a little bit darker. So I'd compare tongue-tied, the darker of the three, to After Midnight, which is much more purple. But you can't exactly see a difference right now. This is a little less, I don't know if this is more sloppy or less sloppy. There is more in my crease, which I didn't want, so I guess more, but it still has like a structure to it. All right, I need to be better about my mumbling. Fluffy blending brush with nothing on it. I'm super annoyed because it's Tuesday, and so normally I would have a video up on Tuesday, but YouTube Studio has been really like butt today. Like I haven't been able to get into it, and this has happened like twice. I don't know if they do maintenance on Tuesdays and I need to just like not try YouTube Studio. Going in with Big Fig over here because I normally edit my video, upload my video, and I can set it to, or I can set it to schedule it, I guess. Schedule it to upload, like go live on a certain day. And so I got everything done yesterday or the day before, and I was like, I have time to do my description box and such later. So I'll just do it later, and I should not have done it later. Just going in with a little bit more of Total Flirt to blend this out, just because I feel like I took too much away from this so I'm gonna build it up again eventually. But I like the color of Total Flirt over here. I'm gonna go in with Solitaire. Now everything starts off like super light, but then it eventually oxidizes to the color that you think it's gonna be, which I find interesting, but I mean, who am I to judge? All right, so there's that. So I'm gonna really deepen up the inner and outer quarters, and I hate that I'm gonna do this. I had a little bit of an oopsie earlier. I said that I was gonna take Marquee, Solitaire, and Tongue Tied, and those were all the same. I'm completely wrong. Solitaire, Big Fig, and Tongue Tied, that are all like the same. Marquee is actually the really dark color. So going in with Marquee now. It's a little bit more purple. These looked pretty much the same when I swatched them out. I mean, Marquee definitely had to be built up to be as pigmented as No Drama, but they were both like the same. Like, see, I've kind of stamped that into one area. It's not nearly like as purple. So now I'm gonna go in with No Drama, which is definitely more purple. So these may look really different, but I'm sure once I blend it out, it will be pretty similar. Yeah, on my camera, I can tell that's definitely more violet. Oh, a lot of fallout. And it definitely looks darker. It's more pigmented. It is absolutely more pigmented. Let me just take my, where are you? Where are you?
Where are you? And I'm so sorry.
Well, that blended that out a little bit. Okay. So we're just gonna take my fluffy blending brush. Now, whenever I was swatching, making Mauves definitely had the most fallout, but upon application, this Menage a Muah has a lot of fallout too. Or maybe it's just that one shade. And I'm gonna go in with another shade to make this less purple just a bit. This blends out pretty patchy. Is this patchy? It's a little bit right there. Okay. Thank you, Menage a Muah, for having a mirror. Making Mauves is a 9-pan palette that does not have a mirror. Okay, so this is definitely more patchy and cool toned. This is more purple and not patchy. I mean, there is that area right there, but what can I do to bring this back? Taking some of Total Flirt, just putting that right over. Oh yeah, that helped. Covered up the patchiness. It's bringing a little bit more cool toned to counteract that violet. Or I'm just talking crazy, never mind. Have you ever done something and you're like, oh yes, and you know that you've spoken too soon, and so now you're sitting there with all this egg on your face, honestly. So rude. All right, that covered up that little patchy area for the most part. Let's see what I can do, but it still looks purple. So I'm actually taking some of Marquee on the fluffy blending brush and I'm pressing it into the skin as I blend out. It looks like it's helping quite a bit. Okay. I don't know if you can see, but there is a lot of fallout here on my highlight zone. I don't think you can see it though, but I certainly can. It kind of looks like there's a shadow in my highlight. You know, whenever you wear a highlight that's like a little too dark, and so whenever it's not blinding, it kind of just looks dark. That's kind of what's happening, but I'm gonna re-blush and highlight my face, inevitably. Why do I put blush and highlight on anyway? Because I'm self-conscious. Okay, so that's this, all structured and put on. Right now, warm tone purple, cool tone purple. All right, but there is so much fallout in the pan of this. Can you see that? So now it's time for shimmer. So I think I'm gonna go in with the 2 purple shimmers just to see how they compare. And then I'll go in with the 2 lighter shimmers, which is what I always do. That's kind of the point of doing a halo eye. So, all right, see how frayed this brush is? Do you know if there's a brush like, like sculpting wax or something that I could run this through that way it keeps its shape? Because it's a flat brush, it doesn't need to like be all like this. Am I gonna buy mustache wax and run this through? Maybe. All right, so on the Making Mauve side, I'm going in with A La Mode. It is a much more like flaky shade. It almost is like an eyeshadow topper. in my opinion. It's not like they're foiled shades, but it is a little crumbly. It's a little crumbly and it's a little iridescent. It just kind of looks like it gives a little purple hue. And try and leave this middle area relatively clear. Actually, I'm gonna put it over everything and then I'll go in because I'm inevitably gonna miss some of the darker purple area that I put it on, and then try and work extra hard to make the even lighter purple show up on that. So there is that. I'm gonna run it a little up into my crease. Took a little bit of marquee. Just gonna press that on top and swipe it in. Oh wow. Whenever you put that on top of a shadow, you can really see how purple it is. Okay, I say on top of a shadow, on top of a shimmer, it really brings out the purple of it. Okay. Now I'm going in with Miss You on the Menage a Moi side. This is like a straight up shimmer, but I'm gonna do the same thing I did on the other side. Now that isn't like as iridescent and blinding because like I said, this is more of like a topper and this is straight up like a purple shimmer. But I am going to do what I did on that side and take a little bit of No Drama, pressing No Drama into the outer and inner corners and swiping in. So there's that. This is much more like dramatic and dark purple. Oh my god. Hopefully everything will be solved whenever I go in with the lightest shimmer shade. So on the Making Mauve side, I'm going in with Bi-Coastal. I'm just pressing that right in the middle. And then on the Menage a Moi side, I'm going in with Thrillist. Whoa, that's a lot more striking. Oh my goodness. Just taking some of the leftover shadow, kind of cleaning up this edge. This one, it just looks kind of like a silver stripe on my eye. Okay, I can fix it. Going in with some of After Midnight, just rubbing that on the outside. There we go. It's a lot less harsh. Yes, okay. So here are not the final looks, but the top eyeshadows thus far. I think they're very similar. I think once you blended these two out, you got a very similar look. Let's see all the shades that I used. I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I used 6. I used 6 of the shades in this palette on my eyes. I did not use R&R, Big Moves, or Mauve on top. And I used 5 or 6, I can't quite remember, of the shades in here. Very similar looks. Very, very similar looks. So I do think that these are kind of dupes for each other, but this has a little bit more options depending on what you like in the textures of your shades. But I am going to finish this look off camera and then I'll be right back. I'm back. I have my lipstick on and I don't have any lashes or liner on. I just have mascara because my eyes are kind of wonky. But I don't know if you can tell, but I could tell certainly while being up close and blending out eyeshadow, but this is very patchy. Like there's a different color up here than there is right here and in like my little tear area. And I haven't had like too watery eyes, but and like up here, this looks very cool. It almost looks like it's a shadow, but it's not. So it's like cool and there's like a gap and then there's like color. So I don't really know what all that's about, but over here it doesn't look, there's a little bit of a glare because I use my phone. It doesn't look too patchy, but over here it definitely is a little bit more patchy. So I would have to say that I prefer the Menage a Moi to the Making Mauves palette just because I don't mind all of the textures that are in the palette. I don't mind fallout. I don't mind crumbly bits. I really don't. But there was less fallout in the Menage a Moi, so I feel like I had to correct everything a little bit less on this side than I did over here. And I think I just prefer the warmer purples and pinks to the more cool tone purples and pinks. But also they aren't so warm that they make a completely different look. So that being said, which side do you like more. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.